There just isn't much ownership there, which is fine. I wish they were chalkers so I could just fade them.
I mean, are people catching on to the returns?
They just fade them anyway. Use that second line for Carolina. They can go on.
We are good, sir.
They go 1v1 at home, right?
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever and wherever you're watching or listening. This is the Awesemo NHL DFS Strategy Show, and I'm your host, Michael Clifford, aka Slim Cliffy. And joining me for the next hour to talk about how great the Vegas Golden Knights are now, a single entry assassin, Mr. Joshua Harris. Josh, how you doing today, buddy?
Doing pretty well. I mean, it would be better if we had our man on the ground at the game to tell us how they're doing, but, you know, still being a big crybaby about it. It's got to go shake some hands, kiss some babies, you know what I mean?
See, that's what happens. We send our boss to Vegas to give us a first-hand scouting report on how Jack Eichel looks. That is how important this return is to the DFS community. And we sent our boss to go watch that game, and he's actually deciding not to go watch that game. He's actually deciding to go glad hand with some people in a conference room. I don't get it. Do you get it, Josh?
I mean, he did tell the Yahoo guys to make the NHL contest bigger, which, you know, two wrongs don't make a right. But, I mean, at least he's on the right track here.
Yeah, it's definitely helping us out here. Maybe he'll sneak his way to that Vegas-Colorado game here tonight, because that certainly does look like a dandy. This is the Awesemo NHL Strategy Show. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I see everybody just starting to pop into the chat. If you guys could, please just throw us a thumbs up. Those likes really helps us. It's the subscriptions that help us even more. They help us grow that channel. Keep these shows coming, whether NHL, NBA, PGA, NASCAR coming up this weekend, whole bunch of stuff. Just click that subscription button. Really helps us out if you're a first-time viewer here, and click the notification bell to get alerts whenever we do go live. We're brought to you by Yahoo Fantasy. As Josh mentioned, Jake has been really putting in some work to get those Yahoo contests a little bit bigger. So just whatever you can do, Jake, to help us, to help out the Yahoo users, very much appreciated. We do have Yahoo projections up on the site. Wild night last night. Actually, it wasn't super wild night last night, but it was. There were two interesting spots, I think, Boston and the Rangers, and that Los Angeles game, and we'll talk about that in a second. The one thing that really drove me insane about last night, listen, I've been playing DFS long enough now that it doesn't really bother me when I know a line is good and I don't play them and they go off. You play DFS for like 8 years. And that'll just happen a fair amount. Last night bothered me because St. Louis 2 is, like, anybody that watches this show or reads anything I write, people know how much I love that line, that specific combination. In fact, over at Dauber Hockey, where I write about season-long fantasy hockey, I wrote about it that morning about how big of a difference it would make putting Tarasenko and Buchnevich alongside Robert Thomas. What did I do? I went in and played 50% Washington power play, 40% Pittsburgh won, 10% Dallas won. Now, Dallas, thank you very much, Joe Pavelski. They ended up helping salvage my night a little bit, got back about 2/3 of my entries. But last night was a tilting night for me because St. Louis 2 is one of my favorite lines, literally in the league to play. They were cheap in a great spot. And for some reason, I just did not play them. And as a result, I lost money last night. How'd you do, Josh?
Same. I mean, I used Buchnevich, but I went double center with the Caps. I went Backstrom, Kuznetsov, Ovechkin. Backstrom and Kuznetsov combined for 1.5 DK points. It is what it is. Like, I was taking a shot at the Q, so St. Louis 2 was lower on than expected, but like no one was on Washington, and they didn't get as many penalties. I thought they got 3 power plays. Ovechkin hit the empty net. He had 2 goals, but wasn't really the game I expected. But that's the way DFS goes sometimes. Like, what should happen, don't. Buddha. Shout out to the Buddha man. I don't know. It was kind of like a weird one until the later games where kind of what we expected happened. Those early goals are just all over the place. I don't know. The Rangers looked flat, but it could have been, the 2 weeks off could be just that the Rangers aren't a very good team 5-on-5. Kings looked a little flat. They had some time off. I don't know. We'll see. Like the Oilers were in a 5-8 back-to-back on the road, and they boat raced the Kings last night. So these teams coming back, they seem a bit iffy.
That's one thing I think we definitely should talk about, because there is a team coming back on tonight's slate we'll talk about later. It's the Florida Panthers. They're coming back after a long layoff. The reason we bring this up is because I don't know how long ago it was, like 5 years ago when the NHL brought in the bye weeks. They're effectively giving teams a week off during the season just to kind of rest. And what we found was that teams coming out of that bye week, playing teams that had already been playing, were not doing very well. I believe Mr. Niehaus, in fact, Matt Niehaus, he's a subscriber here. He shared some data with us earlier in the season about having more than 4 days off. I think Travis Yost over at TSN has written about the rest factor. 2 or 3 days off is good. 5, 6, 10 days off can be too much rest, leading to some rust. I mean, it might be good in the long term, like rest up injuries that they need to rest up for the next 2 or 3 months, but it could cost them a couple wins early on. We saw that last night. Los Angeles lost 5-2 to Edmonton. Like you said, Edmonton was playing 5-8 back-to-back on the road and outplayed Los Angeles. Earlier in the night, the Rangers beat Boston at home, but that was largely thanks to Igor Shesterkin. And
what else is new?
And Boston was without Brad Marchand and Patrice Bergeron. The night before, I think, Edmonton again shut out San Jose, I believe, 3-0. So, like, we're seeing teams return from these long layoffs and not do very well. So, something to keep in mind when we talk about the Florida Panthers a little bit later in the show. I see some people in chat. Greg Collin, STL2, LA2 was a bust. Yes, it was, but they are not a bust in my heart. They will always have my heart. One thing that we should bring up. Actually, we should congratulate some of the winners from last night. You and I got a tweet sent to us, by Adrian Sharoyan. I hope I'm not mispronouncing that. He took down the $12 single entry last night. Also took down the secondary $15, $27 in entries for 4Ks in winnings. Not too bad at all. He went with St. Louis 2, Los Angeles 2, Adam Fox, and Shesterkin and Dobson. So he had a very good night last night. Congrats to you, Pujols Junkie. And then Niehaus, mentioned him a little bit earlier. He finished right behind him, second place in that $12 single entry. So Adrian and Niehaus, very good nights from you guys. Now, I think that tweet that Adrian shared with us, we only have 4 games today, so we have a little bit of time to talk about this. That tweet that Adrian shared with us brought up a pretty good point. He says, crazy how the big $15 and the $40 I usually enter had already filled and would have won me a combined $5,000 had I entered them. Instead, he entered the secondary $15 and the $12 single entry, and he took down $4,000 or 8 times as much money as he would have otherwise. Contest selection, I think, isn't something that we talked about a lot. You're a single entry guy. Adrian was playing single entry last night. You said a couple shows ago that you play basically the same contest every night. How do you approach that? Like, what was your initial approach to selecting those contests? Is it, structure? Is it number of participants? Things like that.
Well, I'll enter all the single entry stuff first of all, since I'm a one lineup guy. Single entry on DraftKings goes up to there's a 121 single entry, there's a 12, and there's a 5. Like, there isn't great contest selection. There's 153 max. Sometimes there's an 88.2 max. On the days they run the $20 special, there's a $33 3 max. You just gotta I was trying to talk to in the Discord this morning before I had caffeine, which is a mistake because I am I'm a Debbie Downer in the morning before I have my 9 million milligrams of caffeine. But if you're a single entry guy, it's fine just to enter the single entries. But what I was trying to explain was it almost feels like you're capping your upside if you only enter single entries because the top prizes aren't very high. So yeah, like if you don't want to enter the 15 lottery because it's 150 max, fine. But at least drop down to the $4.20 max. You know what I mean? Like if you have a great night in single entry, you're still going to have a very good night in the MME contest. And just for whatever reason, if your single entry lineup, you hit the absolute nuts and you're not in these MME contests, you're capping your upside. Like you're in this to win money. You're not in this to like, oh, my return on investment is great. Yeah, that's fine. But like your return on investment would be way better if you enter like, so if you, it really is like bankroll dependent, right? If you don't have the $15 to enter the 150 max every night, if you're entering the $12 single entry and the $5 single entry, and you don't want to enter the 15, that's fine. There's the $4.20 max, there's the $3.03 max, there's the $1.20 max. So like there's like small MME options. I feel like if you have a great night in single entry, you'll still do good there, and you're not going to really cap your upside instead of like entering into a $2 double up per se. You know what I mean? Like put it into these smaller GPPs with higher upside.
Yeah, I agree with that. That, if you're playing the $12 and $5 single entry every single night, I would also just add in the one entry into that $4.20 max. I agree with that 100%. That's what I do usually when I play single entry. Like, I've said it before, I'll probably play, $100 in entries, give or take. I'll do something like, maybe play the $40 and then the 20 and then the 12 and the 5 single entries. But I'll add in the $4.20 max, the $3.03 max, the $1.20 max, the $1 SC. I'll add in all those little ones because yes, when you do have a good night, yeah, you want to win the $40, take down that 5K. Yeah, you want to win the 2K for taking down the $12. But it's the same top prize for winning the $4.20 max. So you're leaving money on the table. If you're a winning player, I guess would be the undercurrent to all of this. But yeah, I agree with you. If you're playing $50 a night in single entries, but you're not playing the $4.20 max or the $1.20 max or something like that, I think you're definitely leaving money on the table. Another thing I will say about contests is that you really have to, when you're MMEing 20 max, 150 max, these contest structures for the 20 max, the lower dollar ones aren't as bad. They have been worse. You really have to focus on getting towards a first place finish, right? I know it's easy to say just win. It's the simplest advice ever, but it was the case like 4 or 5 years ago in DFS where you could cash 2 or 3 lineups out of your 20, not necessarily have a great lineup and make money on the night because the structures were so spread out. The payouts were so spread out. That's not really the case anymore. You really do have to focus on going for those top prizes. So that's one thing I will say is that if you're playing like low dollar $4.20 max or $1.20 max or whatever those contests are, you really do have to focus on lineup constructions that can get you to a first place prize and not necessarily just get you to cashing, because if you're doing is cashing in GBPs, you're probably going to end up losing money in the long run. Not a whole lot other than that to talk about from last night. Is there anything else you want to bring up? I know we were bringing up how good your pizza is, but maybe we can save that for another day.
Yeah. Gonna start do some pizza lessons. $690.40. No, I'm just messing around. No, like, I don't know. If you're an MME player, that $15 is pretty crazy, right? Like Jake has talked about how he's had multiple top 1% finishes and he's lost money. Like if I was an MME player and I had the bankroll to do it, I would probably just max enter the 40 every night instead of the 15. Just because the field is way smaller. Yeah, the top prize is smaller, but the field is way smaller. You have to get less right. you can't. There's not 150 lineups you're putting in. It's probably, I don't even know what this one is. 21 max. You're spending less.
I think it's 17 usually.
Yes, so what's 40 times 7? 400, $680. So that's like, I'd rather put 17. I'm not an MME player, but I'd rather put 17 lineups into the 40 than 150 into the 15. Just personal preference, but I think the best advice I can give, because everyone's different, is find something that's working for you and be consistent with it.
Yeah, I'll say that's one thing that really helped me, is that over the last few years, smaller slates I've gone single entry, larger slates single entry /3 max, larger slates I'll go 20 max, and it's been good enough to me. So I found my process, stuck with it. I've tweaked when I have to. I've tweaked my contest selection. I don't play 20 max every single night anymore. I have tweaked my contest selection and it's working out. So once you find what's working for you, definitely stick with it. We have a bunch of games we have to get to. Before we get to those games, just want to mention we have a podcast giveaway. Just head on over to our Awesemo podcast channel. Give us a 5-star review and leave your Twitter handle or Awesemo username, and you can win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. And we're excited to announce a new NBA props betting show we have added to our daily schedule. For 30 minutes before the NBA Deeper Dive every day, head on over to our Odd Shopper YouTube channel for the best edges available on NBA player props straight from our experts. So that is a new addition coming up in the second half of the NBA season here. We have an NBA player prop show on our Odd Shopper channel. So just head on over to the YouTube Awesemo channel. We've got everything over there. All right, Josh, we got to get to these games. Let's get to this first game. We've got the Minnesota Wild going into Winnipeg. Minnesota has a 3.2 implied goal total. Winnipeg 2.8 implied goal total. I think like a lot of these games, there's stuff to like on both sides here. So I'll just let you take it away.
Yeah, I kind of like both sides of this game. For me, so we were talking about this game line matching, and I think it's kind of important because Winnipeg at home recently has been sending out that third line against top comp and that top line against third lines. Now, Minnesota was in Winnipeg not too long ago, and that's what they were doing, which would put Scheifele Wheeler out against the checking line, and it would be Kopp, Lowry, Christian Reichel out against Hartman, Zuccarello, Kaprizov, which, if you're the coach of the Winnipeg Jets, I don't know, maybe check out analytics or something. But, that has to favor the Wild here from a 5-on-5 standpoint. Hartman, Kaprizov, Zuccarello getting that Kopp, Lowry, Reichel line. They're the Wild's best defensive line getting Scheifele, Wheeler, Stastny. And you see this ownership on Winnipeg One right now. It's really high. I get it because they're cheap and they're on the power play. And Minnesota does have a pretty poor penalty kill. So I think you can use them from a power play standpoint. Connor, Dubois, Perfetti, they're going to get Gaudreau, Fiala. There's just no good 5-on-5 matchup on the Wild. If anything, you want to attack that Hartman, Zuccarello, Kaprizov line, but I don't want to use Kopp, Lowry, and Christian Reichel. So I think from the Jets side, I would use that second line and maybe add in, the power play quarterback, Josh Morrissey, or add in a Wheeler, add in a Scheifele, just because the Wild's penalty kill is pretty bad. So I'd probably do something like a Connor, Dubois, Scheifele, mix and match the power play stuff. And if I had to use a matchup 5-on-5, I'd much prefer to use their best players in Connor and Dubois for DFS purposes against Gaudreau, Fiala, Boldy, which isn't a cupcake matchup, but Scheifele Wheeler going into Eriksson Ek is just a no thank you for me. So Winnipeg 2, Winnipeg power play stack. But for me, I'm on the Wild here. You want to go to that top line, I think that's perfectly fine. You want to go to the second line, Fiala, Gaudreau, Boldy. I think there is some definite cause to go there. Boldy's coming off a massive game Kevin Fiala with line mates is always a fun play. Freddie Gaudreau ain't no bum. So that second line is really nice. I really like that third line, Joe Eriksson at Greenway, and Marcus Foligno's back. You get Eriksson on the top power play unit. Winnipeg's penalty kill has been surprisingly good since Christmas, but that 5-on-5 matchup is so good. Like Sheffield and Wheeler are so poor defensively 5-on-5 that I think Joe Eriksson can take advantage of that. So if you want to go to the top 6 of the Wild, I think that is definitely in play. Like I was joking around earlier, like Josh stacking the Wild on DraftKings. Like I honestly think it's viable on this 4-game slate. But from the builds I've been messing around with, I think I'm going to go to that Joe Eriksson line. You don't have to full stack. You can just one off Joe Eriksson. You can 2-man him with Foligno. You can do whatever you want, really. So basically every Wild line's in play for me, and I think I want to do some power play stuff with the Jets.
Yeah, I'll start with the Minnesota third line because that was the line that I wrote up in the Power Plays article. Power Plays article up on Awesemo.com, free to read. Most NHL days, it's either Josh or myself or the fourth man, Jeff Vots, that will write it up. I wrote about Minnesota 3. This is how over their last 5 games, they've allowed 9 scoring chances. 9 scoring chances against them 5. They're allowing fewer than 2 scoring chances against per game over their last 5 games. Like they're absolutely throttling the opposition. And we should mention this Minnesota third line is a line that goes back years of being very, very good defensively. Joel Eriksson, Ek, and Foligno, like they're not great offensive players, but they're passable. Certainly in this matchup against Winnipeg 1. So Minnesota 3 is definitely one of those filler lines that I like here tonight. I don't think you necessarily have to 3-man stack them, like you said, Foligno, Eriksson, Ek, and then like a Goligoski or a Brodin or something like that. I think that is absolutely just fine. For the other Minnesota lines, like, okay, Minnesota 1 is coming in with very good leverage. And so for that reason, I am not going to fault anybody from playing Minnesota 1 here tonight. The one thing I do want to mention is that their numbers aren't really as elite as they've been. Like they're not playing as well right now as they were, let's say back in December. Over their last 100 minutes, 28 scoring chances per 60 minutes. That's not very good. Controlling 55% of the scoring chances. Yeah, that's good. But, that just shows me that they're doing better defensively. Not that I don't care about good defense. I want a line that can score here. 28 scoring chances per 60 minutes. That's not really doing well. But like you mentioned, they're in a great matchup against that Winnipeg third line. So it's kind of that push and pull here is, do I want the good leverage line that's not necessarily playing well in a good matchup, or do I want to go elsewhere? So again, not going to fault anybody for playing Minnesota 1. I think I'll look elsewhere in my single entry tonight. I do like Minnesota 3 a lot as a filler. I agree with you on the Winnipeg power play. Because this is the reason why, is that Winnipeg second line, Dubois and Connor Perfetti, are kind of like the Minnesota top line. They haven't been playing as well of late as they were when they were first put together. You look at their, last 100 minutes or so, 55% of the scoring of the shot attempts, under 30 scoring chances per 60 minutes. Those aren't the numbers that they were putting up back in, December, even early January, or whatever it was. So I do like Dubois a lot, especially on DraftKings tonight because of where he's priced. I think, Dubois, Scheifele, Morrissey, Connor, Dubois, Morrissey, Wheeler, Dubois, Connor, some sort of power play stack like that. I agree, because if you're going to take advantage of Minnesota anywhere, it's going to be on the penalty kill. But honestly, I think this might be a fade Winnipeg game for me in my single entries, both coming in with a lot of negative leverage. I talked about how I don't really like either of the top 2 line matchups. I think I'm going to be out on Winnipeg here pretty much altogether. So Minnesota 1, Minnesota 3 mostly in this game. On the blue line, I mean, I think there are a handful of cheap defensemen I think you can use in this game. Obviously with Matt Dumba out, Brodin and Spurgeon are probably going to play 23, 24, 25 minutes. So they're both fine. Alex Goligoski at his price, $3K, also fine. Josh Morrissey running the top power play. Obviously, if you're power play stacking, you want him at $4K. Dylan DeMello, maybe not anymore. I don't know if he's the same player. Any defenseman really?
I do want to note about Alex Goligoski. I played him last slate. I know that he's listed as the second pair with Jordy Ben, but they did not get second pair ice time. John Merrill and Dmitry Kulikov saw almost 20 minutes a game. That game, Goligoski played like 16. I don't know if it was because he was on the ice for both goals against early, and the coach was just like, get off the ice, you suck. But like John Merrill, Dmitry Kulikov played over 20 minutes, and Jordy Ben Goligoski played like 16, 17, which is a bit of concern. Goligoski does run that second power play unit. I don't know if that's a normal thing or just because he had such a bad game, but that's something to keep an eye on. But I do agree with Brodin and Spurgeon. Morrissey, obviously, if you're doing power play stuff, Dylan DeMello, min price is fine. Heinola, if you want to, play, Eric Brandstrom again from yesterday, play Ville Heinola, what I mean, like min price is fine. Brendan Dillon, if you're using Hellebuck as usual, I should just, pin that to my forehead because I say that every slate.
All right. I'm kind of torn on the goalies in this game. I wrote up Connor Hellebuck because I'll always play him cheap at home. I know he's not quote unquote having a great season, but I still think he's a great goalie. Just had maybe a bad 30 games or, a bad 30 games. He's still been league average. Like, I think that's kind of what we got to remind ourselves of here. His save percentage is league average, and that's quote unquote bad for him. So if that's bad, what would he do with 35 good games? Anyways, he's cheap at home. So I wrote him up for the Power Plays article, but Cam Talbot projects as one of our better goalies by the Awesemo projections. What do you like in this game for netminders?
AD popping in, just ruining my mojo, saying Hinola's out. Thanks, bud. What a pal. No, we love Quick Party too. Yes, anytime you hear me mentioning stats, it's from his line matching, because even though I got a new laptop, it's still, slower than molasses, and I can't, pull up multiple tabs. So I pull up his line match from my phone. Anytime you hear me mentioning stats, it's from his line matching. It's a really, really good compliment to the Awesemo subscription. Hit him up on Twitter. I think it's Quick Party _ something like that. I don't know. Just gnarly red. I don't know. He'll drop it in.
It's Quick Party _
Quick Party _ There you go. Give him a shout out, even though he just rained on my parade. But anyway, Connor Hellebuck, 7,400 cheap at home. I'll always lean towards him. I think Cam Talbot's fine, especially if you're using the Wild. I just worry, like, he's a good goalie, but like it just seems like in the 60 minutes, he has like 3 minutes where he just like mentally just goes blah, 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 and like lets in like 3 goals. Like, I don't know. It happens like almost every time I use him, having a great game and then just like melts for like a minute and then he just regains it and wins.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of goalies are like that. Like, my whole theory about goaltending is that it's just focus. Like, if you can focus for 60 minutes, you'll be one of the best goaltenders in the NHL. So I don't know, maybe it's not unique to him, but yeah, I do get what you mean by his little freakouts. Coming up this weekend, a little bit of NASCAR. Daytona is right around the corner, so we're offering our Awesemo Plus NASCAR package for less than $2 per day per cup race this season. Sorry. That's $70 for a full year of Awesemo Plus NASCAR. This pass gives you access to our driver projections, our ownership projections, and our top drivers tool. And those will give you the edge you need in NASCAR DFS. Use the promo code Green Flag, all capital letters, all one word at checkout, or simply click the link in the description of this video to activate. This offer is valid through February 20th, which is this coming Sunday. Promo code Green Flag, all capital letters, all one word. It is our Awesemo NASCAR deal, fewer than $2 per cup race this season. I have a bunch of tickets for that race coming up this weekend, and I'm actually looking forward to it. I'm definitely going to be using the Awesemo tools here because I know absolutely nothing about NASCAR. All right, next game. This is a very crucial game. Florida 3.1 implied goal total. They're going into Carolina. Carolina has a 3.4 implied goal total. The reason why this is an important game is because this is Florida's return, we talked at the top of the show about teams returning, from their all-star break / COVID break / whatever. This is Florida's return night. They haven't played since February 1st. So it's been over 2 weeks since they played, and they're on the road, and they're in Carolina. Carolina, one of the 5 or 6 best teams in hockey. But Florida, also one of the 5 or 6 best teams in hockey. And if you look at DraftKings, a lot of prices have come down. Reinhart and Duclair and all those wingers under 5K. I think Huberdeau is at 6,100. Defensemen are cheap. Aaron Ekblad is under $6,000. Like, a lot of the Florida skaters are very, very reasonably priced for a team that could finish the season as the leading goal scoring team in hockey. But as we mentioned, a lot of teams returning to the ice after, 2 weeks off or whatever it is have struggled in their return. So what are you doing with this game, Josh?
Man, I don't know, but luckily these Panthers lines are kind of making that choice for me. I'm not a huge fan of these lines. I mean, Verhaeghe, Barkov, Duclair, very good line. They have a big sample going back a few years. You want to use them? That's fine. They're probably going to see Trocheck, Svechnikov. That's fine. I'm just not super excited about playing the Panthers in this matchup. I just don't like Tippett on the second line. Him and Bennett have a very high event sample together. So I'm assuming that's why the ownership on Aho, Teravainen, and Natchez is just pretty extreme. They go Trocheck against top comp, right? I don't have it, right?
No, it'll probably be Stahl.
Stahl.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that line, we assume Stahl has been pretty good, but his numbers have started to wane a little bit. They've been giving up more
Actually,
chances.
no, sorry, you're right. I'll correct myself. Yeah. Just double checking our line matching sheet. It is supposed to be Trocheck.
Okay. I mean, honestly, line matching doesn't really impact what I'm going to do in this game from the Florida standpoint. It does impact what I'm going to do from a Carolina standpoint. Trocheck, Svechnikov going into Barkov, that line is very good. Both ends of the ice. Bennett, Tippett, very high event. So I think, from a Florida side, if you want to use Florida 1, that's fine, especially MME. 1 to 3 lineups, I don't think I'm prioritizing the Panthers tonight. If I do anything, I think I would go to that third line just because Stahl, Foss, Niederreiter, they're giving it up much more than they were at this time last year. Their numbers have fallen off pretty good. And, Lundell, Reinhart, Marchment have a pretty ridiculous sample together. And they're coming in pretty low owned. I don't mind them as a filler. If they were going to be, wildly over leveraged, then there's no point in playing a third line. But in a 3.1 total on the road, getting a low owned third line in a pretty good matchup, I think that's fine. So for Florida, you want to play Florida 1, that's fine. I'm not a huge fan of Florida 2. Florida 3, I don't think you need a full stack. You can pull some pieces there, like a Lundell, Reinhart, even just one-off Reinhart, because Carolina has a good penalty kill, but they take a lot of penalties. The amount of penalties they've taken have come down a little bit, but it's still a lot. So maybe some Florida 1, maybe some Florida 3. On the Carolina side, I think I'm going to go to Carolina 1. Problem is they are very high owned tonight. Most notably because Aho's price has come down. He's 6,600. Teravainen's price has come down. He's 4,500. Don't really understand the pricing in this game. If DraftKings is going off the Vegas totals, how are they going to be priced down at 3.4 total? I don't know. Maybe Jake needs to talk to the DraftKings guys, instead of the Yahoo guys. What are you doing with the pricing? FanDuel pricing, extreme to the tough end. DraftKings pricing, do whatever you want, man. It's like preseason when everyone was 5,500. But Carolina 1, I'm fine with it. They're going to get that Bennett, Tippett, Huberdeau. Bennett and Tippett have a pretty large sample together, and it's very high event. Obviously, Huberdeau being there is going to, help stabilize that, but it's still not going to make it a great defensive line. So I'm fine with Carolina 1. I just worry about ownership there. You want to go to Carolina 2, I think that's also fine. I mean, if the Florida Panthers had a couple games under the belt, I'd probably be off Carolina 2, but just because we've seen 3 or 4 teams come back and look absolutely flat, I think I'm fine with going to Carolina 2 at lower ownership here. So yeah, Carolina top 6 and Florida 1 or a little bit of Florida 3.
As I sit here and I think about it more and more, I'm wondering why we're not talking about Josh stacking here. I'm kind of interested now that I really think about it. I guess the problem is, like, can you actually even spend a salary cap using 6 Carolina skaters because everybody's so cheap? I assume you can if you throw in
Tony D 6,300.
Yeah, I was gonna say you have to throw in some Tony D to do it. But operating under the assumption that maybe Florida comes out a little bit flat. Even at the best of times, they do give up a lot of, they're a fast-paced team. They give up scoring chances. They give up goals. The goaltending has been shaky at times. I could absolutely see a Carolina Josh stack on DraftKings. A Josh stack is named after this guy right here. And it's just stacking 6 skaters from the same team on DraftKings. I could easily see, top 6 Carolina Josh stack working out here. You leave one guy off, throw Tony D on the blue line, and away you go. I do like the Carolina top 6. Carolina's second line has been excellent this year. I should say Trocheck and Svechnikov have been excellent this year. 70 shot attempts per 60 minutes, 3.5 expected goals per 60 minutes. Those are very good numbers. So, like, if I'm looking at one specific line just to settle in on one line to use, I do like Carolina 2 the most here tonight. Trocheck, Svechnikov. The ownership for 1 is better. 2, they just have better numbers. Like, the numbers for Trocheck and Svech are better than Aho and Teravainen. Like, I don't know what to tell people. So Carolina 2
don't lie. That's what you tell people.
Carolina 2 for me in this game. On the blue line, I think is where things really start to get interesting because, yeah, okay, if you want to play Carolina power play, you throw in Tony D. Maybe if you want to get some guy further down the lineup, Brett Pesce, 3,400, I think is just fine. But then you get to the Florida side, and my word, Aaron Ekblad, 5,900. That guy's been at 7,500 or close to it at times on DraftKings this year. Mackenzie Weegar, 4,800. We've seen him in the 6Ks. Gustav Forsling, 3,100. Probably should be 3,500. We've seen him at 4K. Radko Gudas near min price. I guess probably where he should be. Like, I think there are 5 playable Florida defensemen here, but I also don't know if I want to use any of them. What do you think?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it kind of depends how you feel like Florida's going to play. You know what I mean? Like, if you think they're going to come out with their hair on fire, then yeah, Weegar, Ekblad are the guys, or even Forsling. And if you feel like, well, they might be flat, they might need to put some air in their tires. I think you can go Radko good ass for some block shots, but like, I just don't know. Like, if we knew how Florida was going to play tonight, obviously we have those answers. We just don't. So, like, I think Forsling's fine at 3,100. If not knowing what's going to happen, like, are they going to be flat? They're going to have a normal Florida. I think Forsling's fine at 3,100. Weegar is fine at 4,800. Ekblad is kind of like, I don't know. It kind of reminds me, like, Weegar, Ekblad kind of remind me of Devin Tays, Cale Makar light. Like, Ekblad definitely involved on the power play, but you want Weegar because he just doesn't leave the ice and he gets the periph. So, like, Weegar, I think, is fine in Forsling. If you're going to do some Florida power play stuff, then Ekblad, obviously, and then, punting wise, I think Forsling and good ass.
Yeah, I wonder if good ass will bring the old shot blocks here tonight.
He's probably going to get a game misconduct. He hasn't been on the ice in 3 weeks. He's got some testosterone to get out of there.
Hopefully he doesn't go too overboard here tonight. We have partnered with Yahoo Fantasy this NHL season to bring you some great offers. Check out our exclusive limited time offer, which gets you 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. To qualify, you need to be new to Yahoo, sign up for an account via the link below, deposit and play. That's it. Yahoo will send us your name after you've played in your first paid contest, and we will reach out via email with your coupon. If you'd like to speed up the process of getting access, email support@awesemo.com, and we'll get you set up right away. You can also claim a free $10 of site credit by clicking the link in the video description below, and that can be used to enter any Yahoo contest, including tonight's $5,000 NHL Baller. make sure to use our DFS tools and projections designed specifically for Yahoo to give yourself the best shot at winning big. Thank you very much to Yahoo for being our sponsor. You have been a wonderful sponsor for us so far this season. Let's get to this next game. Anaheim, 2.4 implied goal total. They're going to Calgary. The Flames have a 3.1 implied goal total. All right, Josh, I'm going to be honest with you. I thought we were going to see a much bigger total out of the Flames here. And I think there might be some reasons for that. One, this is 5 and 8 days, I think, for them, if I'm not mistaken, including a back-to-back. That is a lot of hockey to play in 5 days, or in 8 days, sorry. Two, Anaheim has rejiggered their lines a little bit. Henrique, Getzlaf, and Troy Terry top line. Sonny Milano, Trevor Zegras, Rickard Rakell second line. Those are good lines. Those lines were very good for Anaheim earlier in the season. Now, we haven't seen a lot of them lately. Adam Henrique was hurt. Brian Getzlaf has missed a few games. Sonny Milano missed like a month and a half or something like that. So we haven't seen much of these specific line combinations since Christmas. But before Christmas, they were great. So maybe it's a little bit of a tougher matchup for Calgary than it seems on the surface. But again, like I said, Calgary might be a little bit tired for this game. Should mention Anaheim's first game in 5 days as well for them. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, I remember a few months ago we were talking about how this top six, when they're healthy, the Ducks are a good team. The problem they run into is if one of them gets hurt, they just don't have the pieces to move around the line, and that's when they get into trouble. That being said, Calgary top line going to get Derek Grant, Isak Lundestrom, and Jakob Silfverberg, and that's just a great matchup. I know it's 5 and 8. It's still a 3.1 total. Highest leverage, positive leverage on the night, Calgary won. I don't know. If they're coming in around 10, 11%, it's going to be tough cut if I do cut them from my lineup, because that is an unbelievable matchup for them. That third line for the Ducks, pretty bad defensively. So I don't know. Calgary won. Definitely give me my mix today. That second line, Mangiapane back and Coleman, probably going to get Getzlaf, Terry, Henrique. You want to use them as a filler. It's fine. I think I'd in that price range. I think there's some stuff that coming in lower owned tonight that I like a bit more. If you want to use Calgary too, obviously they've been electric, so I think that's fine. You want to use Toffoli tonight. He's 3,100. He was, above 6K on Montreal for a while there. Going to get that Zegras Rakell Milano matchup though. Man, when that line was rolling, they were ridiculous. Now Milano, this is his second game back, but you talk about a lot. Zegras' wowies with and without Milano were pretty stark. Now Milano Cookies is back. He's 3,200. This line is cheap. If you're going to attack any line on the Flames, it's got to be this third line. Maybe they end up being good. We just don't know. Toffoli's, this is a new team. He's still learning the system. If, he has, been on a team coached by the Muppet before, so maybe it's familiar, but I don't know. I don't think Monahan is going to slow down Zegras, Milano, Rakell tonight. And with it being 5 and 8, yeah, it's Markstrom, who I highly regard as a goalie. I think he's one of the best in the NHL. But with Milano, Zegras, Rakell coming in at that ownership with their numbers, they're definitely going to be in play for me. If you want to go to Terry, Getzlaf, Henrique, sure, but I really don't like going into the back on Mangiapane Coleman matchup. That line, despite how they're priced, is honestly elite. It's just because they only get 15 minutes a night. If they got 19, 20 minutes a night, like most top lines, they would be priced like Calgary won. It would happen.
Well, I think you're seeing the problem with Los Angeles, right? It's the power play factor. Yeah. None of those guys are on the power play. So, even if, you don't even have a Boldy like in Minnesota, who's on the top power play unit or something like that. Right. So I think that's kind of what's happening here. If Mangiapane was on the top power play unit instead of Monahan, he's probably a $5,500 winger or something like that on DraftKings. So I kind of get the prices, but you're right. They're a dominant line when they're on the ice. So, it's an easy pass on the Getzlaf Terry line for me. in my single entries. I like Calgary 1 the most out of this entire game. I looked at our top stacks tool, and they're coming in 21% top stack percentage, 12% ownership. Even if that ownership comes up to 15%, 16% tonight on a 4-game slate, I'm still playing them. And like, I'm not sure it'll be that high because you do have fairly expensive Minnesota 1. You have a lot of even Carolina, or not Carolina, even Florida with some of the price drops is somewhat expensive depending who you use. Colorado and Vegas certainly expensive. So, I could see Calgary coming in around 15% or something like that. And you're going to give me Calgary 1 at 15% at home on a 4-game slate. Like we talked about it yesterday, 60% shot share, scoring chance, expected goals across the board, just absolutely utter dominant.
They haven't slowed down at all. Like they've maybe gotten better. They're like a fine wine.
That's the thing, like we talked about that Winnipeg second line earlier in the show, they were slowing down a little bit as the season wears on, at least offensively. This Calgary top line's not. They're just going out and they're just homer choking every single line, every single game. So yeah, Calgary 1, Calgary 2, also just fine. As you mentioned, if you want to use them as a filler, I think I'm going to use Calgary 1 here tonight. Our line matching has them getting some depth matchups through the game. So, you're going to tell me they're going to get some of that Anaheim 3-3 line at times during this game. Yeah, I'm all about that matchup. So Calgary 1's my favorite line in this game. Don't mind some Calgary 2. I agree with you on the Zegras line. If I were to play Anaheim tonight, that's the line I would use because I do want to get as much as the depth matchups from Calgary as we can. And those look to be the matchups here tonight for Anaheim. So Zegras, Raquel, Milano is where I would go. They had, like I said, they have been good this year. 55% of the shot share, 57% of the scoring chances. That is very, very good considering this team is not that good. They can score on that bottom 6 against Calgary. I don't know if I would play them I don't think I'm going to play Anaheim my single entries tonight. If I was 20 maxing, they would absolutely be in consideration. So Anaheim 2, Calgary 1, Calgary 2 for me in this game. On the blue line, I honestly cannot get over the Anaheim defense prices. They have 3 defensemen priced over $4,000 on DraftKings tonight. Colorado is the only other team with 3 defensemen priced over $4,000. And the one of the defensemen that isn't for Anaheim is the guy running their top power play unit in Jamie Drysdale. So I don't know. I'll always play Noah Hannafin or Oliver Shillington for peripheral purposes from the Calgary side. That's probably it for me out of this game. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm the same. Like Hannafin has been crazy. He's been on a tear. And his price hasn't moved. So yeah, I really like Hannafin. Shillington, I guess, is fine as well. Tanev at 3K is fine. The Duck side, like if you need a min price punt, Josh Mahura is fine just because he gets the minutes. Whether he does stuff with it is another thing. But at min price, you're gonna find out. Like I'm fine finding out for 2,500. I'd rather find out for 2,500 than play Hampus Lindholm for 4,500.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. We talked about some winners at the top of the show, took down the $12 single entry. We do love to celebrate winners here at Awesemo.com, and we do so through the Awesemo Hall of Fame. If you want to get into the Awesemo Hall of Fame for a chance to win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum, this is how you do it. You download the Awesemo avatar from awesemo.com/avatar. You place in the top 3 of a contest with at least 5,000 contestants, and then you tweet those wins to the Awesemo HOF account, Awesemo HOF over on Twitter. Do all that, you can win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. You'll see Smoking Cutler took down first place in the 100K NBA Micro Millions for $20,000. Great job by the NBA guys. You see M Champa 98 taking down 10K in the NBA Micro on Tuesday. Great job by him. You see Stupreme taking down first in the NBA 40K $25 entries. And then you see him take down a bunch of and a second place with a bunch of cashes over in playing some NBA tiers. Our old pal EMAC 2024, shout out to the Awesemo HOF party, tied for first in the Super Bowl baller ended up 5th in the 59,000 Yahoo Fantasy road to the Super Bowl. So great job by our old pal EMAC. Justin Tote also taking down first place in a contest over on Yahoo for $1,000. Happy Racks taking down first for $400. That looks like over on NBA as well. So NBA guys are doing extremely well so far this season. If you're a subscriber and you want to get into some NBA maybe after the All-Star break, be sure to check out their NBA content. They do some really awesome work over there. Speaking of NBA, that NBA prop show that I mentioned earlier in our show does come up later today. 4:15 Eastern is our NBA prop show. They're followed by our NBA double dose of the deeper dive and live before lock starting at 4:45 Eastern. And then later tonight, our PGA live before lock. So make sure you click that notification bell to get alerts whenever these shows do go live. Before we get out of here, if you guys could, please throw us a thumbs up. Those thumbs up really help us. Click the subscribe button. Those subscriptions are helping to grow this channel and keeping these shows on a regular basis. All right, let's get to this. The Super Bowl of our NHL evening. Colorado 3.2 implied goal total going into Vegas. Vegas 3.4 implied goal total. Colorado played last night, lost to Dallas 4-1, I think it was. But obviously the big news is Jack Eichel is returning tonight for Vegas. He's been out nearly a year. It was early March, I believe, of last year. He left the lineup for the Buffalo Sabres, never to come back. Had his surgery before, back in November, I believe. It was a neck, disc replacement surgery. Been practicing, looks ready to go on the top line for Vegas, skating with Max Pacioretty and Evgeny Dadonov. Priced down on DraftKings, under 7K. Priced way down on FanDuel at 5,500. Suspect he'll have a lot of ownership over there. All right, Josh, what do you make of this game?
I don't know.
Okay, I'm glad because that's where I am.
Yeah, I honestly don't know because, first of all, I don't really like these line combinations. I think Vegas is going to be mixing and matching. They're going to try to find some stuff while Stone is out. I also don't know how they're going to line match. Like, they're going to throw Eichel out against McKinnon, like his first game back in a year. Like, I would imagine Carlson, Riley Smith, Janmark are going to see a fair bit of McKinnon.
I think that's why you've seen Jonathan Marchessault move down to the third line, is to make that third line kind of like a pseudo scoring line while they still have those injuries, and then they can send out Janmark, Carlson, and Smith as a shutdown line. I think that's what's probably going to happen tonight, but we're just conjecturing here until we actually see Eichel play.
Yeah. It's like I just don't like with these teams coming back for 2 weeks, we just don't know. Like, we don't know what's going to happen. Like, does he have chemistry with Pacioretty? Is he fully healed? Does he remember how to play hockey? Does he still have his afro? Like, these are important questions. Like, I think at this ownership, I need to wait and see. Because first of all, this is a tough matchup regardless. Like, the Avalanche is one of the best teams in the West. Whether they get McKinnon, whether they get Kadri, like, it's not going to be an easy matchup. Welcome back to the NHL. Also, I don't think Pacioretty's fully healthy either.
That's one thing we talked about is his shot rate. But I also wonder, is any of that related to Mark Stone? Because obviously he was playing injured as well. Is that something where, Pacioretty can kind of play through it, but, Stone was too injured to really create any offense? That's what I was wondering.
Yeah. I mean, Stone will be back for the playoffs because unless they trade somebody at the deadline, he'll be out to the playoffs. And people are so mad about it. Like, Vegas circumventing the cap. You know how many people are using the long-term IR and then Stone's actually injured and people are like, Vegas is cheating. Drives me nuts. Anyway, I need my own show to complain about stuff, but I think, Eichel Pacioretty in a vacuum is fine. I'd much rather play Calgary 1 at half the ownership tonight in a better matchup. So you want to use Eichel in 1-3, I think it's fine. I'm just glad he's not min-priced. 6,800, you actually have to make a decision. And I think for me in 1-3, I'm going to take a pass. If I was making 20 and 150, obviously I'm going to have some of that line. It's the shiny new toy. Dadonov is 3K. You know, I mean, the line is reasonable. So, you know, people are going to play him. And I think it's fine in me. For me, 1 to 3, I'm going to fade. If I'm going to go to anything on the Vegas side, I honestly think it's going to be Marchessault, Stevenson, Roy getting that third line matchup on Colorado. Like Stevenson, like, I don't know how high you are on Stevenson. Me and Jake I think me and Jake have him on a pedestal. Maybe it's not a great idea.
I like Stevenson. I think you guys are much bigger fans of him.
Yeah, but like, I don't know. I just kind of like how that line, it just feels nice. You know what I mean? it's not super expensive. You can use them as a filler. That's the depth of Colorado is where you need to attack. You get some secondary power play that time there. Like Nicholas Roy, like not a massive third wheel there. Like if it was Nolan Patrick, like, bleh. But Nicholas Roy is fine. I think that third line for some filler is fine. Probably out on Janmark, Carlson, Smith, assuming they see McKinnon. So yeah, like I'm fine with the Eichel line. Like I'm fine with it. I'm just gonna fade them in 1 to 3. If I was making 20 to 150, they would definitely be in my mix, especially since they're fully correlated. On the Colorado side, I do really like Colorado 1. I know they didn't play great last night, but they did run. They like Dallas. Like I know people don't like Dallas 1, but they are an elite line, whether you want to admit it or not. Their line, that is an excellent line. You know, McKinnon's matchup proof. He kind of, you know, last night it showed that, you know, he's human once in a while. Today, Janmark, Carlson, Smith, buckle up, fellas. I'm coming in with some 15% Colorado 1. Like, I know they're back-to-back on the road, but anytime you can get McKinnon at a reasonable ownership, I think that is perfectly fine. So Colorado 1 for me, Vegas 1 in MME, some Colorado 3 is filler.
Yeah, I will say that I do like the Colorado top 6 here. I wrote about Mikko Rantanen in the Power Plays article because Vegas's penalty kill actually isn't that great. Like the best you could say about it is like it's like the middle of the league. And Colorado's penalty power play is good enough to absolutely eat any penalty kill like that alive. So I do like the Colorado top line for that power play matchup. But the Colorado 2 has been pretty good in their sample together. Last 100 minutes, 63% shot share, 53% expected goal share, taking that Eichel matchup, coming in with good leverage. I do like that Colorado second line here. I think I'm with you. I'm going to be more on the Avs than I will be on Vegas in this game, but honestly, I'm just excited to watch it. I will say Colorado power play, but I do like Colorado 2 a lot as a mid-price line in this matchup. On the blue line, Alex Pietrangelo and Shea Theodore are both way too cheap, so I'm just going to say those two guys. Anybody else?
Yeah, I mean, you know, Braden McNabb is 2,800 too if you want some shot blocking. Nick Hague under 3K. Like these prices are insane. Devin Tays at 5,200 if he's going to still be in the low fives. I'm going to play him. Cale Makar if you want to correlate power play. I think Gerard's fine, but I'd much rather find the extra 1,000 for Tays.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. Try to find that money. I love Devin Tays. He's just such a good defenseman.
What is like? Thanks, Islanders. Like,
anyways, yeah, we got to get out of here. We have that NBA prop show coming up at 4:15 Eastern. So, you know, maybe go grab a bite to eat. Maybe get in a little walk. Come back, get your NBA props in. And then your deeper dive and all that good stuff coming up after them. We will be back tomorrow with another show. We're going to be back most days with shows. This condensed NHL schedule continues right into March. But for producer Mike, for a single entry. Oh, I forgot to ask you about your hat trick pick. I almost got us out of here without that. Could you imagine? Okay, thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. Josh, I'm going to ask you for your hat trick pick and your goalies for tonight. My hat trick pick for tonight is Andrei Svechnikov. I like both goalies in the Minnesota game, and I also like Darcy Kemper. Who you got?
The exact same goalies I was going to say. I will say Gibson is piquing my interest if you're going to fake Calgary. And I think my hat trick pick is going to be Juanito Hockey, Johnny Gaudreau.
Oh, Juanito Hockey. All right. Johnny Gaudreau and Andrei Svechnikov are your hat trick picks here for tonight. All right. Now we have to get out of here. For producer Mike, for a single entry, Sass and Joshua Harris, I'm Michael Clifford saying good luck tonight, everybody, and we'll be back tomorrow.